That Sober Guy podcast contains adult content, merciless truth, and emotional nudity. Listener discretion is advised.
I'm Shane Ramer. You're listening to That Sober Guy podcast, and we help people stay sober. If it's your first time listening, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here today. If you're looking for ways to quit drinking, you can go to thatsoberguy.com. Check out all of our resources there. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at That Sober Guy Podcast, and we'll put all the links in the show notes. Shout out to Humans Music. Always love those guys. Thanks for the music bringing us in today. Always get pumped up by this jam. I've heard it so many times and it never fails. Hope you're enjoying it too. Get the excitement going for living a full, purposeful life, being a man of integrity, honesty, trying to do the best we can, not perfection, because we know that is not really possible to be perfect. We try to be, though, sometimes, and usually, I know for me, bites me in my ass. I'll bring all my shoes and my glasses, so I have them. Anybody ever listen to that? Sal Rosenberg. Who knows what that is? Hopefully there's somebody out there going, Sal Rosenberg. I know who that is. Who is it? Say it out loud. Yeah, that's right. Jerky Boys. Man, me, Seth, Chad, we used to listen to that stuff all the time. We actually used to do prank calls before we ever heard Jerky Boys. We must have been in the 6th grade, I think. We would call like 7-Eleven. And I don't know, it was just so weird. For some reason, we would talk in like female voices. I guess, I don't know, man. We were like 12 or 13 at the time, and we'd mess with the dudes there. Told him it was Monica calling. This is Monica. And I think at one point, I think one of the guys from the 7-Eleven nearby, actually, Seth gave him the neighbor's address. And so he drove by the house and like to check it out. And we're like watching him out there, and he's driving by, and just unbelievable, man. So funny. But Sal Rosenberg, and then you had Frank Rizzo. This is Frank Rizzo. Open your ears, jackass. I didn't want to say the F word. It's probably a terrible impression of him. Those are the days though, right? For all you old folk like me out there in your 40s or your 30s or your 50s, the Jerky Boys. I am Tarbaj, the Egyptian magician. I do magic act. What I do, I eat hot coal. And then I stab customer in the eye with saber. What is going on right now? I don't know. I guess I'm in one of those moods today. Well, that wasn't how I was planning on opening the show today, but in any case, I already mentioned all the links from today's show will be in the show notes, so they're very easy for you to find. There's one thing that I want you to do before we get to today's topic of 10 fun activities for men to enjoy instead of drinking alcohol. And I think I might need to make this 11 and go back to being slapdick 12-year-olds again and prank call. So let's add in prank call as number 11, because I know a lot of us like to do that back in the day. And before they had star 69, well, you got to hit star 67 so they don't call us back. You know, that was the trick after a while. But here's what I want you to do. I'm all over the place today, but I love it. I would love for you to register for our free monthly workshop coming up next week on, October 30th. And we're going to do this every month. So even if you're listening to this later on in a different month, we're going to be doing this monthly at the end of every month, probably sometime middle of the week. But we'll do it every month. If you go to thatsoberguy.com, and it's on the main page. It's also on the resources tab. It's also in our Instagram profile at That Sober Guy Podcast. If you just click on the link tree in there or the profile link, you can find a little button in there as well. And all you're going to do is just throw your name and your email address, and then you'll get a link. The link is actually posted on the page as well. It'll be the same link every month. And we will get together for the monthly workshop. This month's topic is going to be how to deal with stress without alcohol. And it's really a great place for us to connect. and talk about personal life, business life, health and wellness, fitness, giving out some tips, some resources, and then most importantly, being able to connect with each other. My hope is that we get some dudes in there, who can connect not just in the workshop each month, but outside of that as well. Maybe in the Sober Guy men's group, maybe even outside of that. Who knows what's to come as we approach this new year coming up. We have lots of good things planned, and actually have some good guests coming up for you as well. We're in the process of doing some booking right now, and we'll have some new guests coming out, which I'm excited about too. I do enjoy, doing the monologue episodes. And it's a good time for me just to vent a little bit sometimes or just get creative. But I also know that I enjoy talking to other people, hearing their stories, hearing their experiences. And I know you guys do too. So we definitely will have some more of that coming up in the future, in actually just in a couple of weeks, actually. So stay tuned for that. All right. 10 fun activities for men to enjoy instead of drinking alcohol. And man, this list is, I think it's a pretty standard, but cool list. There's some pretty basic things on here. There's some fun things, lots of things that I've actually done. Here's the one caveat to this, because I know there's somebody out there that's going to go, yeah, all this stuff's great, but I'd like to do it all while I'm drinking. And I get that. I get it. Okay. So you might go down the list and hear one of these and then go, well, man, I love to do that, but how would I do that without alcohol? Or how could I do that? And number one, it's possible. And then here's kind of the caveat, which I was getting at a little more detailed on. We have to be able to do things without alcohol, even if there's alcohol around. And that's going to be somebody's best choice on how they're feeling. How are they doing well emotionally? Are they doing well? I had to take that off real quick, those headphones there. But how are you feeling spiritually, mentally, emotionally? Like, are you fit? Can you be in certain environments? And that's an important thing to ask yourself before you do any activities and you're trying to stay sober, not drink, if that's kind of been your lifestyle for a long time. The other thing I wanted to say is, yes, it's possible to do these things, to have fun, to do activities with friends, family, events without alcohol. But a lot of us used events as an excuse to drink. And so I just kind of want to just explain that a little bit and break that down just before we jump into these 10 things. I've given this example many times, but it's usually the first one that comes to mind for me. So I used to love going to A's games, right? I think I mentioned this just a couple podcasts ago. Fortunately, they're leaving. They already left, actually, Oakland. It's a bummer. You can't even go to Oakland really anyways right now because it's absolute shit show out there. But that's beside the point. Going to Oakland A's games back in the day was always a great time. But I went and I got usually smashed in the parking lot because it was known for being one of the best spots to tailgate. So we would show up early, we would leave late. A lot of the time we wouldn't even go into the game until mid-game, or I can remember times not even going in the game till the 7th, 8th inning and just being just wrecked and barely watching any of the game. And so it became to a point, no matter how much I was an A's fan or loved baseball or loved going to games with my friends, anytime that somebody said, hey, let's go, we're going to go to the A's game, this Friday night or a Sunday day game or whatever, my first thought was, yes, I'm about to get booked up. Like, we're going to party. Like, that was my thought. And you can see how the precedence taken is in partying and drinking and associating that event with substances, with, just getting wild and wilding out, which I got to say, man, I had a fun time sometimes. I did, until it became not fun. Because eventually it did become not fun, and you start getting older and realizing what's important, and you're putting yourself in bad situations where bad things can happen. Whether it's fights or, driving intoxicated, you could hurt somebody. There's all types of things that could happen. You could hurt yourself. All those things. And thank God I was lucky enough to never really experience any of those other than some fights and stuff here and there. But when I think back about it, at that time, like watching baseball was my second or third focus of that. And so, okay, so why am I pointing this out right now? Because we're going to go down this list, and there's a few things on here that you could argue and say, well, yeah, I love doing that, and I like to do it while I drink. Okay, so but the point here is to be able to find your authentic self, figure out who that is, be okay with who you are, sit in reality, sit in the moment, sit in your true self as best of that, as best of who that is or what that is. And trust me, like I'm learning who that is in my own self every day. Every day is something new. I still don't know, but I'm way ahead of who, knowing myself and trusting myself and being my authentic self than I was 10, 11 years ago when I was still wilding out, just playing, a professional escape artist, the art of escapism. And that's what a lot of this is too. And maybe you guys have heard that before, but we want to do these events, we want to do these activities and do these things, but really we're doing them and we're escaping during them. We're not even there to watch and pay attention and have a good time at the event. And so I wanted to kind of put that in context first, because you have to kind of reframe it up. And it's really hard at first. I can remember if you go back, actually, man, it's probably in the under hundreds episode, like under 100. I don't remember which one, maybe 50, maybe 90, somewhere in there. But there's an episode in the early Sober Guy days of Seth and I driving to an A's game. And it was in the first couple of years of sobriety. And I remember I called it my little locker room recorder. And it was like, it was just this little handheld stick, and it was perfect. And you just hit record and it would record, and I think we just set it in the middle of the console and we just chopped it up and did like this podcast conversation as we were driving to the game. And we talked about staying sober and trying to do it. And I just remember that. And I remember it being really difficult. I think it was the first game I had gone to sober, and it was hard. I don't want to say it was so much hard as it was just weird. It's just weird because when you have drank for so many years and it involves every facet of your life, and it doesn't mean that like you can be very functioning in this too. I've talked to so many dudes lately, who are very good dudes, who are very functionable. They have families. A lot of them have businesses, careers. They're fathers. They have hobbies. A lot of them are into fitness. Like they do a lot of the right things and the good things, but there's this one thing that's just still kind of stuck like this ball and chain, and that's alcohol, because that's that one piece that has started when maybe they were young, and it just kind of evolved over the years, and they've never really been able to kind of break away from it. And so when we're talking about these events, these activities, these things to do, I really want you to keep that in mind, that these are things you can do, of course, and these are things you can do without alcohol, and these are things that you can do that you can actually enjoy and be in the moment and be there for the right reasons, and that goes with any event. Like if you're trying to stay sober and you're trying to, make some changes and live a healthier lifestyle, that should always be a question that you have, because you're never going to truly get away from alcohol. There's always going to be some aspect of it around, whether it's a grocery store or a birthday party or a wedding. No matter what you do, a restaurant, it's going to be around at some point. And so you really have to be able to be in a good state of mind and understand that, that's going to come up, and there's going to be a time where you have to ask yourself, like, do I have a good reason to be here? Like, should I be here? And maybe you're going, what does that look like? Well, it's like, it's pretty simple. Let's say a family member of yours is having their 40th birthday party, and it's at a really nice restaurant. They have a banquet room. The whole family and some friends are going to be there, and obviously they're going to be serving alcohol and food, and everyone's having a good time. And you ask yourself, well, is that a place that I have a good reason to be there? And for me, the answer would be yes. Of course, I want to go support the person that I love. I want to wish them a happy 40th birthday. I want to be there and hang out. I'm going to have clear-cut boundaries on, if I need to bounce out of there, if I start not feeling great, or if it gets too crazy or whatever, right? So that's one like good example. A bad example would be like, man, my buddy from high school hit me up and excuse me, he's having his 40th birthday down at the local tavern, and everyone's going down there and they're getting fucked up, man. Let's go. And it's like, do I really have a reason to be there? Okay. This person, was like a homie back in the day. I still got love for him, but man, they go pretty hard. Who knows what else is going to come up? It's at a bar. Like I have a family. Yeah, that's probably not like a really good idea that I want to go put myself in that position, in that environment. Maybe it's, and if you feel really bad about it, then you hit that person up and you go, oh, man, I'm sorry I couldn't make it. Let's grab breakfast, in a couple days after you cure your hangover, because you're going to be jacked. And I'm not. That's one thing I love. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a good reason. You have to ask yourself that. Do I have a good reason to be there? Okay. So, let's get in this list. Here are 10 fun activities, 10 fun things to enjoy instead of drinking alcohol. Okay. Number 1, join a sports league. Join a league, like a men's league, a co-ed league. Maybe it's something with your wife or your girlfriend or whoever. Maybe it's just on the solo. You got basketball, you got softball, you got soccer. Like I've seen, there's lots of indoor soccer. So Jess and I did, when we moved to Huntington a few years back, one of the funnest things we did right when we got there is we joined a co-ed volleyball league. It was a co-ed beach volleyball league. That was fun, man. I think we did 7 or 8 games, and we met some people, because we didn't really know too many people down there, but we met some friends, and we met up once a week. We rode our bikes down there on the path right down by the beach, and man, it was such a good time. It was a good spot to meet some new people, get a little bit of exercise in, get some fitness in. Cause man, beach volleyball is hard actually. Like you got to have some strong legs and you're moving around a lot. I remember the first game or two, I was like super sore afterwards cause I was using muscles that hadn't really used before. And it was just a good time though. It was a good time to do something with Jess and I together and then meet some new friends too. And then also, I don't know for you dudes out there, how many of you enjoy like men's softball leagues? Man, I was into that. I'm still into that. I love baseball. I love softball, but I was in a lot of leagues back in the day. And it was usually like Thursday nights, and that was always a good time too. And that's one of those ones that I think that you got to be a little bit careful on if you're early on, maybe in your sobriety, or, just be aware, because there can be drinking at those. Like in fact, even before I got sober, this is kind of hilarious when I think about it and absolutely stupid at the same time. But I remember just drinking before the games, softball games. And I would literally like be out in the outfield, like smoking cigarettes, playing softball, like out there just smoking and drinking and chewing and just drinking between innings. And, that was like the cool thing to do. All the dudes were doing it. We were hammered. Calling it the beer leagues, man. Excuse my coughs on this episode here, but a little raspy today. But the beer leagues, they call it that. Oh, we're going to jump into beer leagues and whatever. Okay, so you can find good leagues that maybe they have some beer league teams, but and actually, piece of advice: maybe don't get on a team that's got a bunch of dudes who are just slamming beer. I mean, you can find different teams. Maybe you create your own team. Maybe it's a sober team. It's a great idea. Like if you're struggling, you love softball, or you love volleyball or soccer, whatever it is, man, dude, create a sober team. Like find some other sober people. And maybe that's an idea that you can kind of come up with to be a leader in that, and be of service at the same time. It's a great way to do that. So, join a sports team, a sports league, something great to do. Definitely gives you something to do every week. All right. Number 2, go camping or hiking. Spend a weekend in nature, get outside, get in the sun, get active, get physical, bring some friends along. There's nothing like going on a good hike with some friends or some family, or just being outside and getting that in. There's so many great places to hike and camp. And it's just nice to get away from technology for a minute too and reconnect. I actually need to do that. Like I need to do that sooner than later, as a matter of fact. I think last year when we went, the last trip that I took, I can't remember if I shared this afterwards or not. Long story short, this would have been last September up right outside of Truckee, California. If you go up by Boreal Ski Resort, the Pacific Crest Trail is there, and you can hop on the trail. You can park your car, hop on the trail, and you can hike out to a lake. It's called Paradise Lake, and it's a beautiful lake. Been there many times. Actually, my buddy Josh and I first went there probably in 2016, 2017, just on a whim. I can't even remember how I found it. Maybe All Trails or something. But in any case, been out there many times. We've trekked through the snow a couple years. I think there was 2 years, just tons of snow. One year we couldn't even make it to the lake. There was so much snow, but it was always generally a good trip. Never had any issues or anything. The weather can get a little gnarly up in the Sierras and Lake Tahoe area and Truckee, even in September, but it was never anything like that was, that was like scary or anything, or that we freaked out about. So this trip, it was just Seth and I, and we set out on, I think, a Friday morning. And one thing we didn't notice when we parked the car, because I did see a little bit of rain in the forecast, but it was nothing crazy, right? And there wasn't a lot of cars parked at the trail. And I'm like, that's kind of odd. September, like, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, maybe we're just on an off weekend or something. School, I think, had just started back in. And so I didn't really think much of it. I probably should have. But we get our stuff together and we get on the trail, and it rains a little bit on us. It's about, like, I think I said this already, but it's about an 8 mile, it's out and back. So it's about 8 miles out. And it's a little gnarly. There's some good switchbacks and some good uphill runs. And I think I always overpack my backpack. So I'm always like 55, 60 pounds, just trying to hump it. And my quads are on fire, but we made it. We made it to the lake. I think we got there about 1:00, and there's a little island that we would camp at always. And so you have to wade out in the water. So you kind of put your backpack up above over your head, take your boots off, time to your pack or whatever. And then you kind of wade out. It's probably knee to quad deep maybe. And you get on the island and, man, set your camp up. It's just an awesome spot. Right. And so we start setting our camp up, and as it starts getting windy, right? And I see these clouds coming in. I'm like, oh shit, man, like, damn, it looks like it's going to rain a little bit. And mind you, it takes a good 4 or 5 hours if you're going at a good speed to get out there. And it's already 1:00 as we're setting up. So we get our tents set up. Sure as shit, as soon as the tents are set up, it starts raining, right? And there's like this fog and clouds. It's kind of eerie. And I'm like, all right, well, I said, hey bro, like, Seth and I are talking, well, we're tired anyways. Let's hop in our tent and, we'll rest a little bit, and then, we'll wake up and the rain will probably be stopped and we'll eat some dinner and hang out. Well, I wake up at about 3:30 in a literal puddle of water in my tent, like just soaked. Right. And I'm like, oh shit, like this is not good. And it's just dumping rain. Right. And so I have my little emergency radio. I turn that on and I'm listening to the weather report, because you have no cell service out there. That's the other thing. Right. So, I mean, you're out in the middle of nowhere, which is awesome, but it can be a little gnarly. And so I turn the radio on and they're like, oh man, there's like this, basically there was like a flash thunderstorm that came in that was literally going to dump all night long, and it was going to be bad. And it's windy as heck. I'm soaking wet. My tent is soaking wet. And by this time it's already 3:30, right? And it's going to get dark by, 6:30, 7:00. And so we have to make this decision. So Seth and I have radios. I radio over to him and I'm like, hey bro, like they just said that on the radio that there's like a flash storm, and this sounds like it could get pretty gnarly. We're probably not going to be able to start a fire. Like, what are we going to do? Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to try to like ride this out? And Seth just said simply, bro, I don't want to die. And I start cracking up and I'm like, dude, thank God you just said that, because I don't want to die either. It's like, this could get crazy. We could freeze to death. Like, who knows? Start going over all these things. We're going to get eaten by a bear. Your mind just starts freaking out a little bit, right? So it's like, okay, hold on, calm down a sec. So I sit there and think about it. I'm like, okay, like, let's just get our stuff. And if we go, trust me, like, this is what's crazy, because we were already like super tired from the hike in. And now I'm like, oh gosh, we got to make a decision. We're going to hike back right now. And if we go literally right now, we can probably get back maybe before dark if we go and we don't stop the whole way. Like, we literally can't stop. And so that's what we did. We packed up whatever we had. Like, luckily, I think I slept in my clothes. So I literally just threw my boots on, which were still dry, thank God, because I kind of put them up. But left our tents. Actually, Seth's tent, when I was getting out of my tent to go, he was already out. His tent blew away. It actually just picked up and just blew across the lake. I don't even know where it went. My tent, we didn't have time to like roll them up and stuff. And plus they were flooded. And so in the art of getting the hell out of there as fast as possible, we bounced. And this little longer than I wanted to share here, but it's interesting when I think back about it and how funny it is, and really how it was a little scary too, because then I start thinking like, man, what if halfway in the trail, one of us rolls an ankle or something, or one of us, what if we can't cross somewhere? Because I mean, there's literally puddles of water and all over the trail. And I mean, we're soaking wet. And I'm going, dude, we don't have tents. We can't start a fire. We're freezing. And so anyways, okay. So what happens? Thank God, obviously I'm here, I'm talking to you. So I didn't die, right? A little puss, but I was a little spooked for sure. Made it back to the car just at dusk, like literally just humped it like savage, like just let's go. Didn't stop the whole time. We took a little micro break real quick for a minute or two to grab a drink of water or something, but man, made it back to the car. I was soaking wet. I literally was so cold. I was just shivering, and jumped in the car, turned the heater on. It took me a good 2 to 3 hours to get like back acclimated to some normal body temperature. But anyways, go camping or hiking. Go camping or hiking. Just check the weather and don't be a dumbass before. And I think you'll be okay. Make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. And it can happen even when you think you know too. Like I said, we've been out there so many times. I always check the weather. I always have a contingency plan, some backup shit, a radio. But man, even with that stuff, sometimes like it can go south quick. The good news is that I was sober during that whole time. And so, man, I was able to think clearly, straight, make good critical decisions, and it worked out okay. Worked out pretty good, actually. And now we have a fun story to tell. But man, lots of good spots to hike and camp. So definitely something you can do without alcohol. All right, number 3, build some shit. Build some shit. Work on some woodworking. You can build some models. You can do home improvement stuff around the house. Maybe your wife has been asking you to fix the fence. Hey, you need to fix the fence. Go fix the fence. Do something. Lay some tile. Fix your bathroom. Build a workbench. Do something with your hands, man. That's a really, really great way, to spend some time and, get creative and do something fun. And you can do that with a cup of coffee, a glass of water. If you're into NA beers, do it with an NA beer, but don't do it with drinking beer out in your garage. That's one classic thing. I'm going to build something. I'm going to work. How about this one? I'm going to work on my car, and I'm going to drink a 12er of Miller Lite in the process while I'm wrenching. No offense. I don't know why I use that voice when I do that, but it's the man voice, the drinking voice, and we're just going to work on some car stuff or build some stuff and you can do it and have a good time without drinking. Trust me, it's very possible, and your work will probably come out a little bit better. I'm gonna actually put some money on that. That the final product is going to be solid after you're done. All right, number 4, go to a comedy show. Go to a comedy show. And I know what you're thinking. Well, wait, there's a 2-drink minimum. Yes, there is, but it doesn't say that it's a 2-drink alcohol minimum. Get a Coke, get a Pellegrino, get a cup of coffee, get something other than alcohol. And I promise you'll still laugh your ass off sober as long as the comedians are good. But lots of good comedy shows, lots of good comedians. In fact, there's a lot of sober comedians as well. And a lot of them talk about sobriety. A lot of them talk about, sharing some of those stories of what it used to be like before, when they were drinking and, messing up, and now what that looks like a little bit different for them today. And there's some good stuff there. So definitely something you can do. Go to a comedy show, bring a friend, bring a date if you're not married or you're dating or whatever. But it's something that you can do, and you can do it sober, and it could still be a good time, and you can still laugh. In fact, I just thought of this. My buddy Dave and I, you probably heard Dave Buckner. He's been on the podcast a couple of times. Great dude, and lives actually nearby now, out here in the Boise area. And we went and saw Adam Carolla at the Egyptian Theater just a couple of weeks ago, actually. And it was pretty hilarious too, because here's, these two dudes, and Dave had the hook at the Egyptian Theater from, one of the guys that worked there, and it told him, yeah, if you ever want to get in. So he hooked it up. So big thanks to him always for that. But we go in and we sit down, and Adam Carolla's on, and he's hilarious already. And me and Dave are sitting there, and Dave's like, hey man, I think I want like some popcorn or something. I'm like, dude, that sounds good. Me too. So I rolled down and got some popcorn and some big ass sodas. And we just ate popcorn and drank soda and watched freaking Adam Carolla crush it on like an hour and a half stand-up set. And it was so fun, and I wasn't hungover. We got some food afterwards and hung out a little bit. And then we were home by like 10. I mean, that's the life these days, man. And I felt great the next day. So it's possible. It's all a reframe. It's a whole different game today. All right. Number 5, host a barbecue or a cookout. Host a barbecue or a cookout. Get some friends, some family together, make some food, be of service, make your best ribs, make your best tri-tip, your best links, like whatever it is, man, make some fun with it and focus on the food. Focus on the food. That'll help to kind of get over the alcohol part of it. If that's something that you used to do is barbecue and drink or whatever, and not only focus on the food, but here's almost just as important, if not more important, focus on being of service, focus on serving your guests, focus on making them a plate, focus on conversating when you're done cooking and, spending some time with everyone, genuinely asking how they're doing. Being a great host, and then when you're done, focus on making them plates of leftovers to take home. Focus on, just having a good time and being genuine, trying to be your authentic self and really caring about people. And you can do that through making them some good food. It's real simple. And I think that's a really good way in being in that mindset of serving others, is when there's food involved too. It's a really easy way to do that. So hosting a barbecue, hosting a cookout, something to do. Great time. Number 6, take a class, baby. Take a class, learn something new. How about maybe it's a karate class? You've always wanted to learn karate or taekwondo. You're going to practice your form. Maybe it's some boxing. I know I definitely miss boxing. I need to get a heavy bag. We don't have one at the new gym I'm at because it's quite a bit smaller than the old gym. But I thought about putting one in the garage. I just haven't got around to it yet. But definitely miss that. I've been getting some shadow boxing in at the gym. But there's also some Krav Maga. I think I said that right. Krav Maga classes that I saw recently too. So that's something that might be interesting. Jiu-jitsu. Another great way to stay fit and challenge yourself. Maybe it's a painting or art class, all kinds of things, whatever you're into, taking up a new skill. And that kind of leads us into this next one. Or actually, no, that's the one after that. This other one is to go bowling or play pool. Go bowling or play pool. This one I think could be a little bit of a dangerous one, because bowling alleys and pool halls, there's usually lots of cigarette smoking and cheap beer drinking, I feel like, with pitchers of beer and cartons of cigarettes. There might even be a cigarette machine, depending on where you're at and how old the place is. So this one barely made the list to fill it up, but I do enjoy some bowling sometime. In fact, Cash and I are probably going to go. He likes to bowl a little bit. We both suck, but he also likes pool too, and he's pretty good at pool. So it's kind of why I put this on the list, because it is fun, and maybe some video games are in there too. But, another one of those things, it's like, okay, how am I feeling about being in this environment? And if that's a trigger for you, totally get it. But it is something to do. It is something that's fun. And I think it could be a good time as long as you're in a good state of mind. All right, next one leading into, let's see, what number is this? This is number 8. Yeah. Try something new that you've always wanted to try, even if you suck. Try something new that you've always wanted to try, even if you suck. So what is that thing? Remember that term, embrace the suck, if you've ever heard that before, right? Where most dudes, we get to be old or older, we get families, we get jobs, careers, businesses, and then all of a sudden we just don't do anything fun anymore because we're constantly working, trying to pay bills, trying to be parents and dads and trying to be husbands and just do life, and we don't even know who we are anymore. And you find yourself not having fun. You're not doing anything that you enjoy. And there's ways to go about changing that. And one of them is trying something new that you've always wanted to try, but you don't try it because you don't want to suck at it. Who wants to suck at anything? I get it. I'll give you a quick example of this because we're short on time here. This is way longer than I planned on going today, but that happens sometimes. Surfing. When we moved to Huntington a few years back, that was like, I've always wanted to try to surf. I was too much of a pussy to try up here in NorCal because it's super gnarly. But Huntington, Newport, a couple little spots. Blackie's was like a great spot in Newport for beginners with a longboard to go out on some little 2-foot waves and try to, get your surf on, if you even want to call it that. But just being in the water was absolutely amazing. Being able to paddle out, keep your head up, being out there was and I was just so terrible. And I remember that I went out with Lucy one time. It was like the first or second time we went out, and I was trying to sit up on my board and I fell over, and it was so embarrassing. And my daughter was like laughing, like Lucy's like cracking up. And I said, you know what? I don't really care. I literally didn't care. I was having so much fun, and I was so happy to be out there with my daughter in the water and just trying something new. And like, here we were going for it. I literally just didn't care. And what does that mean? What did I do? I embraced the suck. And I got over my ego and myself. And I said, I don't really care what anyone thinks. I don't even care what my daughter thinks right now. I'm goofy as heck. I know it. But I want to try this. And I really want to give it a shot. And I want to try to surf. And I want to be out in the water. And I just really was excited about it. And so I embraced the suck and I tried. And I eventually got better. Not very good still, but I got in some pretty good shape, and I was able to stand up on a board and ride a wave. It was pretty freaking awesome. It wasn't anything crazy, but it was something that was kind of on my bucket list, and I hope to do it again at some point. I don't live by the beach anymore, but if we're ever in that area, dang well, I'm going to be hopping out there. So try something new, even if you suck at it. Embrace the suck. Give it a shot. It's totally worth it. All right, a couple more and then we'll wrap up. Join a social or discussion group. I'm going to keep this one really short here. Join our Sober Guy men's group. I would love to have you jump in our group. It's a free men's group. There are hundreds of dudes in there. We just changed over to the new platform on our website. So there's tons of new features on there. I'm going to be doing a lot of new things in the next couple of months and going into the new year, different challenges, some coaching stuff, some workshops. And there's just a lot of dudes in there who are able to connect and have a place to go and check in, even if you want, if you're struggling or if you just want to connect with some other men and other people and just have some fun too. Challenges, like I said, it's just a really great spot. And so if you want to do that, you can go to thatsoberguy.com and the men's group. You'll see the tab under resources. And I think it's also on the main page. It's also in the show notes. Everything is in the show notes. So if you want to stop this right now and pause it, that'd be awesome. And you could go into the show notes, or you can keep listening, I guess, while you're doing it, as long as you can multitask, and join the Sober Guy men's group, and then also join the upcoming monthly workshop that's coming up next week and every month after that. So love for you to do that. Show notes at That Sober Guy Podcast on Instagram. You can find it there too. All right, last one, number 10. Actually, it's not the last one because we made a number 11 from the prank call, the way I weirdly started this episode today, but whatever. Number 10, plan a poker or a game night. Get friends together, have a poker night. Maybe it's if you play video games, maybe it's a video game night. Maybe it's men's bunco. Don't do men's bunco, please. If you do men's bunco, I'm going to make fun of you. Like that, just plain and simple. But you know what? Maybe I'm the jerk for that. Maybe there is a men's bunco league that's awesome. I don't know. Just do something that doesn't involve alcohol and have a good time. I know I've been at plenty of poker games where it's usually like it starts out as a tournament, and then there's dudes drinking, and as the night goes on, it's like, let's get a cash game. We're going to get a cash game going. Raymer, are you staying for the cash game? No, I'm not staying for the cash game. I'm going home. It's 10 o'clock and I'm tired and I lost my money. Occasionally I'll win. I'm not a bad poker player. I'm just not that good, I guess. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. And I don't more than I do. But in any case, it's always a good time. You do have to be careful in that environment as well sometimes, but that's what happens if you host it. Maybe you can control it a little bit more. Or if you don't host it and you find a game night, a poker game night or something, or a poker tournament that you go to, you just have to have a plan in place. And we've talked a lot about that on the podcast before, having resources available, have tools, know what you're going to do, have someone you can call, have a ride, bring your own drinks, your own NA drinks, all types of stuff you can do for game night or anything else. And then number 11, prank call, man. Do yourself a favor. Do an old prank call. I'm going to do one. I'm going to do one today too. Maybe when I'm done here, maybe call the old local 7-Eleven or the old restaurant, like Jerky Boys. Tell them that I'm crapping my pants all over from their terrible food. Okay, I'm not going to do that. But here's the point here, okay? This is the point before we wrap up today. All of these things on this list, you could equate them and involve alcohol in them. You could involve it with anything. But the point is that we can live life and have fun and still do things without drinking. We can. We just have to have the right pieces in place to help support us to make those right choices when we get in those environments or before we get into those environments. And the more time you get and the more people, the more sober people you're around and the more support you have, the easier it gets. I don't want to say it's easy. Like it's, I still have even my moments where I'm just like, oh God, I just wish I could just escape the world right now. And I found other ways to do that. I'll go kick my ass at the gym until I can't breathe. That's one of the ways, call it healthy or not. But, I've found other alternatives to escaping through alcohol or drugs. But I get it. It still happens, but it's about allowing those thoughts to come in, those feelings to come in, and then being able to let them pass without taking action on them. And man, I talk a lot about that in workshops, obviously on the podcast, in our coaching sessions. And one last plug, I think, before we wrap up today, we're looking at launching the new mastermind group at the beginning of the year. Now, we were supposed to do it in the fall and I got sick and was out for over a month. And so it's taken me a minute to kind of get back up to speed with things. So instead of doing it in the fall, we had to push it back to the new year, which actually I think is better because now we can just start fresh. So We're looking at mid-January 2025, but I'm actively taking applications right now. The first group is going to have 8 spots open. And so if you go to thatsoberguy.com, once again, click on the resources tab, or you can scroll down on the main page. And there's a short application that you fill out for the mastermind groups. Those get sent right to me. I review all of them, and then I set up calls with each person who's interested. And I can give them some details about the mastermind group, all that good stuff. But I'm really, really excited about that. I'm really excited about the workshop coming up next week. So I hope that you guys can hop on there. I'd love to meet you if I haven't before, and just see everybody and just spend some time together, hang out, shoot the shit a little bit, and have a good time. So I hope something spoke to you today. Share the podcast with a friend. You can get all the resources once again at thatsoberguy.com. I hope this list 10 fun activities for you to enjoy instead of drinking alcohol helped. And man, appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of the day. Have a great weekend. Until next time.